Hey there, folks. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to do something a little different. Normally, I focus my attention on coverage of the Civilization game, normally covering strategy, but I kind of wanted to do something else simply because I love it. You know, I love playing Civilization 5 and Civilization 6, but I also have a passion for for movies, for stories in general, both reading and in the cinema. And I thought about doing some coverage on the Last Jedi before this, but as I debated on it, I realized that it was already being done by a lot of people, that this was a really controversial thing, and I want to make it clear. I'm not trying to be controversial in any way. I make my videos for fun. I don't monetize anything. And, I do that because I want to be able to do this at my leisure. It's just a hobby for me. And I don't really care about getting a lot of likes, a lot of views, a lot of, subscribers. It's just something I do because I enjoy doing it. And I don't want to have to be committed to making a video every week or every day or even every month. It's just, when I feel like coming on, when I have an idea or something that I want to cover, I'll just pop in and do it. And I don't feel obligated to, put out materials regularly. But before I go on, there's a couple things I want to get out of the way. I'm going to be covering Last Jedi in a lot of detail, and there's going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and you don't want the movie to be spoiled for you, then don't watch this video. And the other thing that I want to cover is the difference between subjectivity and objectivity, right? A lot of people say that whether or not you like a movie is subjective, and I'll agree with that statement. If you enjoyed The Last Jedi, that's you're welcome to that opinion, and you don't have to justify it to anyone. Don't have to justify it to me or to anyone else. You're entitled to like or dislike a movie or a song or a color or whatever you want to like or dislike, and you don't have to give any reasons. The difference between subjectivity and objectivity is objectivity is giving an opinion with a standard applied to it. And to say that whether or not a movie is good or bad, as long as you can provide evidence, then you can have an objective discussion about that. And that's why I'm bringing it up and doing this video, is to have an objective discussion about about the movie, what you liked about it, and why. More importantly, why. And I'll say this: as I sat and watched The Last Jedi, I enjoyed the movie. It was cinematically, The Last Jedi was a beautifully done movie. The visual effects were incredible. The sound was incredible. The soundtrack was awesome, right? So just for a movie going experience, it was amazing. And if I limited my my enjoyment to just that, I would say that The Last Jedi, met my standards. If that's all I cared about was a beautiful cinematic experience, it met the criteria. But after I finished watching the movie, I was sitting in the car with my dad, and I asked him, I said, well, what did you think about the movie? And he said, oh, it was good. And I can hear my feelings reflected in his tone. Like, yeah, the movie was good, but there was just this feeling of disappointment. And it was like a deep-seated disappointment. And it took me a couple of days to figure out why. As I continuously replayed the movie in my mind, I started to realize, once the initial thrill of seeing a new movie that I had anticipated for 2 years, the reasons why I had that feeling of disappointment, that overwhelming feeling of disappointment, the reasons started to clarify in my mind. And to put it simply, and I think that this kind of, just this statement alone kind of expresses how I felt about it. It was just badly written. The writing in it was very, very poor. And if I just leave it at that, then you could say, and it would be justified, well, that's just your opinion. But I'm gonna start laying out. I'm gonna do it one video. I'm gonna do more than one video, and I'm gonna lay out one reason at a time. But there are many, many examples that I can give of how this movie was poorly written. And so the first one I'm gonna start off with is I'm just gonna compare it to The Force Awakens. I think that's the fairest way to do it. Comparing it to any other movie series or anything like that, I don't think is fair. But comparing it to The Force Awakens, I think is fair because they're both contained within the same trilogy. All right, so the imagination in the story fell flat for me, and the first example that I can think of is the fight scene between Kylo Ren and Rey. In The Force Awakens, that fight scene was well done, and in my opinion, the fight scene in The Force Awakens was better, much better, than the fight scene in The Last Jedi. Now, if your only standard for fight scenes is the choreography, then you would have every right to disagree with me, because the choreography of the fight scene between Rey and Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens, as compared to the fight scene between Rey and Kylo Ren and the Red Guards, was much better in The Last Jedi. Just if you're just judging by the choreography. But the reason why I prefer the Force Awakens fight scene is because J.J. Abrams took time to provide story and build up and tension prior to the Rey and Kylo Ren fight scene in The Force Awakens, right? In The Force Awakens, Rey meets Han Solo, and J.J. Abrams does an adequate job. I won't say he did a fantastic job, but he did an adequate job of getting me to believe that Rey and Han Solo developed a meaningful relationship. And he did the same thing with the relationship between Rey and Finn. He did actually, I think, a pretty good job of, getting me to believe that their relationship was meaningful. Right, so you start off with that. He builds up these relationships between Hans and Rey and Finn very well. Then Rey is captured by Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren straps her into a chair, and he forcefully enters her mind and tries to take her memory of the map. And to me, this is a very important scene, because in the beginning of the movie, J.J. Abrams established Kylo Ren as a very powerful force user, and he also establishes Kylo Ren as a pretty bad guy, a pretty evil person. And he does that with Kylo Ren in the beginning of the movie stops the blaster bolt in midair, and he forcefully takes information from Poe, and then he does it again. He forcefully, well, at least he tries to forcefully take information from Rey while she's strapped in this chair. And let me give a little side note here. If you, let's say that you had ESP, you had the ability to read someone's mind, either against their will, you could force your way into their mind, or even enter their mind without them even knowing it and read their thoughts. I maintain that if you are a type of person that's willing to do that to someone, you are automatically evil. You are a very, very bad person. And the reason why I say that is because the most personal and private thing that a person has is their thoughts. I don't care who you are. If you everybody has bad thoughts sometimes. And the thing that gives a person the ability to either be good or bad is their ability to ignore or not act upon a bad thought that they have. Like if someone does something mean to you or whatever, you might have an impulsive thought of striking out or lashing out against that person and smacking them or hitting them or whatever, right? But it's you're not acting on that thought that determines whether or not you're good or bad, not the thought itself. So we all have thoughts that we're sometimes ashamed of or not proud of, right? But having those thoughts doesn't make you good or bad. But if someone is willing to enter your mind against your will and look at those thoughts, they don't have the right to do that. And anyone who does anyway is, in my mind, automatically evil. But anyway, so Kylo Ren tries to take her thoughts. She ends up winning. She's able to resist him doing that, and turns the tables on him. And in my mind, this isn't as bad because he was trying to do it to her, and her only means of defense was to do it to him instead. So I can forgive that and say that, well, it's not as bad because she was just defending herself. She had no choice. So after that happens, eventually Rey witnesses Kylo Ren murdering Han Solo in cold blood, right? And then after that, Kylo Ren critically wounds Finn, and like I said before, it's already established and it's in a believable way that Rey and Finn care for each other. So she has stakes in the game. She is, this fight becomes important to her, and as I watched it, it was important to me. I was emotionally vested in that battle. So it wasn't just about choreography and how beautiful the fight looked. I was invested in her winning that battle. And it felt good to me. There was a payoff when she was able to accomplish it. So, that's why I prefer the Force Awakens fight over any of the fights that happened in The Last Jedi. It's just simply because there was more story put behind the battle. And that feeling or that opinion isn't just limited to lightsaber duels. The same thing can be said about other fights. Now when you contrast that with what happened in The Last Jedi. Kylo and Rey, they start like galaxy Skyping, between each other. And through these communications, I became emotionally vested in one of them turning the other, because it was established during these scenes that either one of those was possible. So I did get emotionally vested in something like that happens. Then when they finally meet up, Snoke does a few things, and he makes a couple revelations through his dialogue. But then Kylo Ren kills Snoke. The problem that I had with that is not that Snoke died. I didn't care one way or the other if Snoke lived or died. But the movie had done nothing to get me emotionally vested in that happening. Like I just, it happened, and I was like, okay, I didn't even see it coming. And I didn't really, to be honest with you, I just didn't care. And that was problematic for me, because I want to care. Anytime either a good guy or a bad guy of any importance dies, I want to care about it. Otherwise, what's the point? Then after that, Kylo Ren and Rey fight the Red Guards, but I don't know who these guards are, and the only investment I had in that is the fact that Rey and Kylo Ren were fighting together. But that investment was quickly discarded, because pretty much right after that, they reveal that no, Kylo Ren's not going to turn, and neither is Rey, and so what? What was it? Why did I get emotionally invested in anything? So it was disappointing. There was no payoff in any way. And story, to me, matters. If you want me to come back and want to watch a movie or buy a movie later, the only reason I'm going to be willing to do that is if the story is important. Giving me well choreographed fight scenes, I don't really care. And the same thing, if you go back to The Force Awakens, the same thing between the Millennium Falcon escape scene versus Poe's battle scene in the beginning of The Last Jedi. It's the same concept. The Millennium Falcon, there was some emotional investment. This was the story transpiring, but it's the camaraderie and the cooperation between Rey and Finn that makes me root for them. It's not just that they're being chased by TIE fighters or whatever. What's bonding me to that moment is the cooperation between Rey and Finn and the dialogue that they're sharing while it's happening that makes it important. As opposed to Poe, he's doing it by himself, and the only investment I have is that he'll succeed. Other than that, he's telling me that the dreadnought is really bad and therefore it has to be destroyed. Oh, okay, I'll take your word for it, I guess, because I have no other choice. But other than that, there's no reason for me to get emotionally invested. Yeah, that scene was really cool. It was visually brilliant. But emotionally, I've got no investment. The Canto Bight mission, a lot of people have a problem with this mission, and I do too. But as it was playing out, I didn't, because even though they're introducing me to another character, Rose, I'm willing to want to like her simply because you're showing her to me. And I start to like her throughout the scenes as it's developing. I kind of, I'm like, okay, she's not so bad of a character. The problem with the Canto Bight scene for me is that after they complete this mission, I quickly find out that the entire mission was utterly useless and had no point, fail, or succeed to the plot. Because Haldo, soon after, she ends up revealing that, oh, hey, I had a plan all along, and it had nothing to do with sending Finn and Rose to Canto Bight, to find this code breaker. Even if they had succeeded, even if that mission had went perfectly, it was utterly useless. So I can't help but to ask myself, why in God's name, Rian Johnson, did you send me along with them on this mission if it was utterly pointless to the plot? And I've heard people say things like, well, it was great because because Rian Johnson subverted, expectations. And I like that. Really? That, because let's put it this way. Let's say that you had a boss, and your boss, he announces to all the employees one day that, there's going to be this, a new position opening up, and someone is going to get promoted, and everybody, he's unsure of who he's going to pick. So anybody, the door's wide open. Anybody could potentially be chosen for this new position. So for the next couple of weeks, everybody's, putting their best foot forward and working extra hard and putting in extra hours and extra efforts. Everybody's going the extra mile for, a couple of weeks. And then at the end of the couple of weeks, the boss stands up and says, okay, I've chosen so-and-so for this job, but, guess what? I pretty much knew all along that person was going to be chosen. But hey, thanks for all the extra effort you guys have been putting in for me for the past couple of weeks. He'd be real good at successfully, subverting your expectations. But in the end, you never had a chance for the position anyway. So would you then thank him for, subverting your expectations? Would you feel thankful towards him? Probably not. I mean, most people, 99.9% of people wouldn't. They wouldn't appreciate being lied to. And the writer and director of a movie is in that kind of a position to where he can either deal with you honestly, or he can lie to you and subvert your expectations. But to me, that's just an abuse of power. I mean, that's no different than your boss lying to you about your chances of getting a promotion than it is, about whether or not a scene is useful within his movie. That's not creative thinking. It's not good writing, because he could do that all day long, and I'm never going to like him for it. Just never. So that's pretty much all I have to say for this first video. I do have a lot of other topics that I'm going to be covering. Anywhere I'm going to cover a lot of things, like how Luke's character was treated. I want to cover Rey's parentage. I want to cover, plot in general. I want to cover, just a lot of different topics that people are bringing up, but are not topics that are not being expressed in a way that I feel is complete enough. So I kind of want to just keep giving my 2 cents on this topic for a while, and I'm hoping for some intelligent discussion from the people who watch the video. But if all you have to say is, well, you're stupid, whether it's to me or to another viewer, just save your 2 cents, because I don't want to hear you're stupid or things like that. It's just all that means is that you're a moron. So let's keep it friendly, and I look forward to reading some comments.